For our project, we decided to test the single sign-on for National University. Our main reason for choosing the National University website was due to the fact that months ago, when a student logged into their SOAR account, logged out, then attempted to log in again, they would be denied access. Only after resetting the browser and clearing all cookies would they be able to access their account again. We decided to verify this issue no longer exists with test case number 5. We decided to test the other basic scenarios of trying to sign in to a specific National University account. Test case 1 is entering both an incorrect user ID and incorrect password. Test case 2 is entering an incorrect user ID but with a valid password. Test case 3 is entering a valid user ID and incorrect password. Test case 4 is entering both a valid user ID and correct password. Test case 5 details our reasoning for choosing this site for our project, the goal of which is to log in, log out, then attempt to log in again, all using a valid user ID and password. And finally, test case 6 tests checking a student's Blackboard account by clicking on the Blackboard link image. The first 3 test cases should all result in access being denied to a SOAR account. Test cases 4 and 5 should result in access being granted to a SOAR account. And test case 6 should allow a student to access their Blackboard page after using the single sign-on for accessing a SOAR account. Here is the detailed code listing for test case 1, entering an invalid user ID and an invalid password. We decided to implement our code in Java using Selenium. The next slide will show a short screencast of testing test case 1, which shows the user is unable to sign in using the parameters given, which are invalid for any available accounts.
Test case 2. For test case 2, we used a wrong user ID and a valid password. We also created 2 different classes, one holding the login page and one for the student ID and password. Depicted is the code listing for test case 3. For test case 3, we used a valid user ID and a wrong password. Again, this picture shows the student ID and password in a separate class. For test case 4, we use a correct user ID and a correct password. The user ID and password are stored in a separate class.
In this slide, we're going to talk about the main reason that we chose National University website. As discussed in the first part of this presentation, that issue was very inconvenient as resetting the browser meant closing all the other open tabs, some of which might be of websites that has process we're in the middle of, and closing its tab meant losing all progress. For our code to work, we needed to include Selenium. We also need to set the property for the Chrome driver and pass its location before creating the web driver. We can add lines of code to wait a few seconds for the page to load, after which we can start an instance of Chrome and navigating to National University website. Then maximize the window for a better view during the screen capture video, which will be shown in the next slide. After that, create a new instance of student ID and password, a class that we created solely for that the automated code will not have any critical information, and instead the username and password are stored in a different class which will be used during the login phase as shown here. Then click on the sign in button. We used link text because CSS selector, find by ID, and XPath locators would not work to log out, due to the fact that the elements responsible for logging out cannot be found with those three locators. Therefore, after signing in, find the element that bears the student's first name with find by link text, then use the same method to find the sign out element and click on it. After signing out, the final 3 lines of code shows that we're trying to sign in again, and the video on the next slide will show that this test case passes now, which proves that the issue we continuously experienced months ago is now fixed. In this test case, we're trying to verify whether the Blackboard page can be opened from the Sora account link with no errors. The element that bears the link that leads to Blackboard page can easily be found using the XPath locator. The next slide will show the screen capture video demonstrating that this process can be executed and passes with no errors. After conducting our 6 test cases, all of which passes, we can conclude that the National University website is at least one error less than 10 months ago.